That's a very elegant segue straight into the topic. I was reading recently about how to be more, punchy with podcasting, and it was saying, "Don't say hello, how are you?"
Right.
So
Don't say that. Don't say that.
no,
Yeah.
well, resist the urge to be nice and human and friendly. But yeah, live is the word, isn't it? We're going to talk about Amazon Live today, and I'm ashamed to say that you, as the Shopify fanboy, as it were, expert, is telling the Amazon guy here what we should be talking about in Amazon, because I had no idea until we started researching this on the back of you suggesting it, how big this has become. It's huge, isn't it now?
Amazon Live, man, it has become a thing, and so yeah, it's fun. It's interesting topic. I think maybe because I'm here locally in Seattle, although at the moment I'm on the Oregon coast hanging out, little vacation. But yeah, the Seattle scene, I think, is pretty tapped into what Amazon is doing.
Hmm.
And so that's what we want to talk about today. So if you're watching with us live, hello, hello, hello. As is our tradition, although we skipped last Sunday, but generally Sunday mornings we're going to our podcast, and we're going to do the session of it live here, and then we'll rip out the MP3 and put it on the podcast. So thank you everybody for supporting the live and by watching via replay as well in our various groups. I think we're in YouTube and several Facebook groups. Realize it's early morning. West Coast time, but this is a fun tradition that we've got here. So
It is.
this topic today is a hot topic for anyone who sells on Amazon. And I know that generally means, oh, well, it doesn't it doesn't work for me if I only do retail arbitrage, I don't have a brand. This topic is for everyone. And that's the interesting part about Amazon Live, selling live. And so we want to dive into today. I don't know if we'll put it in the official podcast, but I was just saying to Michael, I just turned on Amazon Live half hour ago to show Cinnamon and talk to her about our little topic for the day for the podcast. And the lady who was presenting was, I mean, to be generous, I mean, she's probably 60, 65. She's not like QVC quality, like presentation. She was just, you could tell, in her living room. And she had 250 people watching her. And it's 7:30 or it was 7 a.m. in the morning, West Coast time. And this opportunity is for everyone. It's for anyone who wants to sell on Amazon. Yeah. And so that's what I'm excited about today. So if you're watching with us live, give us a shout out, say hello. Tell us about your experience with Amazon Live, whether you've seen it or not, whether you understand, the opportunity, what questions you have about it. We'd love to jump into it with you today for a few minutes and go deep on this subject. So yeah, fun times.
Sounds good. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So I'm very resisting the temptation to try and sell the audience a watch right now or something. So I should plunge into the podcast, and that will keep my QVC instincts away.
Leave us and go watch Amazon Live.
Yeah. So right. Are you ready? You're kind of leading the charge on this. So let's do this thing.
Let's kick off this podcast, and then if you're watching with us live, leave a comment. Tell us where you're watching from. Say hello. Give us a shout out, and leave us questions about the topic, which is Amazon Live streaming. Okay, here we go. I'm going to kick it off for us. The live selling wars are heating up like never before. In recent months, Amazon has doubled down on its push to make e-commerce a live selling event by offering its live stream app. And Nordstrom has just launched its own live stream channel as well. So in this episode, we're going to dive into the topic of selling live on Amazon and explain what it is, how to do it, and how to learn more about going into it deeper. Michael, are you ready for this fun topic?
I am indeed. Yes, let's get into this. First of all, right. Tell me what made you think about this whole thing as a topic, because I'm surprised and embarrassed to say that it hasn't been making the rounds amongst the UK sort of power sellers that I move among, but it's clearly a thing. So maybe your location is helping you to get a deeper insight than mine is.
Yeah, maybe. Well, the thing about it is that as I reflect back on this was we were users of, I guess is a how to describe this. We had done a deal and we're in conversations to do more deals with Zulily, which is a Seattle-based e-commerce operator. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they basically publish a daily deals email and do daily selling. And so we had done deals with them, and they're local. And so when we did the deal with them, we went and saw their headquarters, and they operate out of the old Starbucks headquarters, which is a massive building. And And when we went there, we were just in awe. They were huge. They were amazing. And then in 2015, they were purchased by QVC, which is the long-standing giant TV broadcast selling, company. And QVC, if you're not familiar with it, also owns Home Shopping Network, which was, I think, probably, I haven't researched it, but probably their arch enemy at one point, a rival that they bought out or something like that. So QVC and Home Shopping Network are dominant on TV selling, and they bought Zulily, which is a massive e-commerce operator here in Seattle. And so that really caught our attention. But that was in 2015. And when that happened, I was like, oh man, QVC's coming into e-commerce. They're coming to Seattle and buying a big e-commerce operator. What is Amazon going to think of that? And here we are, whatever it is, 6 years later. And it seems to me that Amazon has fully implemented its war footing and kind of response and tactics with Amazon Live. And so to me, that was sort of the context. That was what made me aware of it. And then there was just one other bit. We work with some amazing e-commerce sellers as coaches and consultants. And it's an honor to work with them. And one of them oriented me to live selling probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, and does it very well. He's in the fashion retail space. And he pointed out actually that there were Europeans doing it in the fashion retail space very successfully. And he was copying their sort of general style. And we helped him a little bit tune it up and think through the strategy of it. And so those two things brought it to my attention more. And then I guess my third bit here is that on Prime Day, just last month, if you, at least in our context for Prime Day, if you looked at Amazon's homepage, they were pushing live videos all day long. That was their key signature featured thing, it seemed like to me, which I was like, whoa, what is happening? Like Amazon is all in on live selling. And who are these people? And are they like, employees of Amazon, or like, how does this work? And that really triggered for me a whole sort of learning and discovery process. So I guess, sorry, long answer, but that was sort of what caught my attention here on this topic.
That's great. I think context is one of the missing pieces in the world of try this latest hack kind of idea. So I think it's good to see that it's a long-term trend supported by very, very smart businesses rather than just a little hack that's going to go away. I've never forgotten trying to get big on a couple of video networks that then completely disappear. And I can't even remember the names offhand. So this is not an overnight thing. It's a trend. It's an upwards trend over time. So that's really good to know because it's worth investing in it as a skill set, as a thing to explore. So tell me about this live selling war. You mentioned QVC versus Amazon. Obviously, they kind of have really different expertises, if that's a thing, don't they? I mean, what's behind that? What do you think that implies for us as e-commerce sellers?
Well, Amazon's no slouch in terms of competing in sales. And I think what's happened is the convergence of broadcast media and live streaming has really changed the game over the last few years. Whereas QVC and Home Shopping Network used to be perceived as the domain of television broadcasters and a tool and system for broadcasting on television. The live streaming universe and all of the, everybody's watching, multiple live or over the top programming apps, whether you like, Amazon Prime or Hulu or Netflix or whatever the one is of your choice. There's just so many now. It's just made live streaming ubiquitous. It's just everywhere and easily achievable. And I think that it just lowered the barrier to entry technically to doing the broadcasting. And so I think obviously Amazon, they would have not been, they would not have worried over the technical issues. But I think the barrier to entry has just been lowered and lowered and lowered so that the live stream selling is an opportunity now. But the other competitors in the space are stepping into it as well. Walmart has a system for this. Nordstrom, literally this month, as we're recording this, just launched a live streaming channel. And so I think everyone's getting on board with the program and realizing that you can do basically what QVC pioneered on TV, but just do it live now on the internet. And so that's the war. And I think the interesting part to me is that Amazon's approach to it is is in essence being outsourced to everyday people. It's like that their approach is democratized, if you will. They're putting it out so that anyone, basically, we'll talk through some of this detail, but anyone can do this. And so that's very interesting. And so I think the war is on, and I think it'll only get more intense. And the question is, can people perfect this model in live streaming that QVC and Home Shopping Network clearly perfected, or have done very well, on TV. So
interesting. I think the word democratize is interesting in the Amazon context. What I would say from the third-party marketplace model is that Amazon has long since realized that as the first-party seller, I think in 2020 it lost $40 billion, having sold record amounts. So the more it sells, the more it loses as a first-party seller. So the future is in being a marketplace and enabling other people. Now that looks very similar to democracy, but what I'm seeing is actually that unless you're a huge seller, you're going to get treated more and more as part of the sort of sausage meat going into the machine. I would suggest that what they generally do is they crowdsource expertise and then they allow most of it to die. So I think what they'll be going through is a massive thrashing. This is not based on my knowledge of live, but Amazon's sort of strategic approach over the years. They'll be letting a lot of people have a go at it, and then they'll sort of maybe at some point start closing the gates, I suspect. So maybe the wild open west is not open forever, I suspect.
Maybe the fences will go up over time. A couple comments are popping in here. Amjid says, what if wholesalers don't have their own products? The beautiful part of this, just to mention this, so we'll go deeper into it in a moment, I think, is two different approaches to Amazon live selling or opportunities exist for us. One is being brand registered and having your own products. So that is a smaller community of Amazon sellers. But the other opportunity is just simply applying for their influencer program. And if you're in their influencer program, you can sell anything on Amazon. And so that is amazing. So MJ, that hopefully that helps answer. But this is available to you if you don't even have your own product, if you're selling other people's products. Ol wrote, love your podcast, guys. Learned so much from you both. Oh, thanks, man. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
By the way, what you just said is just mind-blowing. So you can sell stuff on Amazon based on being an influencer, not on being a product creator. Is that right? Amazing.
Yes, and that really means radical. Yeah, it is totally radical, and that's what I mean by the democratization of this. Basically, you're right. I think what Amazon might do is they might winnow down the field to some kind of gated version of you have to have some kind of performance metrics for your lives or something, and there are already requirements. But this is interesting because you can literally apply for influencer program, get accepted, and take Amazon product off the shelf that you just like, and go live, sell it, and what you're doing basically is using the affiliate system on Amazon. It's their product, it's their marketplace. You're just serving as a host for a live show and building your audience and doing well by it. So Jacob jumped in and said, yes, apply for the Amazon influencer program or be brand registered. So there you go. Exactly right, Jacob. And thanks for joining us. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening at scale. A few quotes, I think, would be appropriate from this article. Michael, you and I just, as we were looking at this topic, found Washington Post, which is owned by Jeff Bezos, just published an article. And I believe the title of it was, where is it? Do I still have it here? The future of selling looks a lot like QVC, or something like that was the title, which is amazing. And a few quotes. They said, Amazon hosted more than 1,200 live streams during its Prime Day. And then the other bit is monetary. It says live stream shopping events generated an estimated $5.6 billion in sales last year, a market that retail analysts project will balloon to $11 billion this year. So it's $11 billion opportunity, and nearly $26 billion by 2023. So it's doubling. Basically every year, live selling revenues are doubling right now. We are in this hockey stick growth, S curve element to this. And That's really interesting as sellers, isn't it?
It is. I'm suddenly more interested. I mean, QVC is something that I personally have occasionally experienced, and as a consumer, I happen to greatly dislike it. But when I look at numbers like
Hmm.
that, I'm suddenly extremely interested as an entrepreneur because
Yeah,
that is massive. I mean, that
yeah.
explains why Amazon feels the need to start competing. There's no point in having
Hmm.
part of a market that isn't valuable in dollars
Hmm.
and cents. But once it
Hmm.
starts to be, Amazon definitely needs to get in there before it seeds ground to
Hmm.
something that could become so big that
Hmm.
Amazon, actually becomes a shrinking entity again eventually. So very interesting. And also the other thing that was mentioned in the article is like more than once actually that come up in e-commerce that the Chinese are kind of not the early, but the sort of middle level adopters of e-commerce at
Hmm.
scale compared to the United States or Europe. And this is another thing, isn't it? This live format that's become very popular in China, I understand from the article, for about more than 5 years. And so for them, it's not new. It's new to the US and it's new to me and it's new to
Yeah,
Europe. So
yeah.
what do you make of that?
Well, something's new to people when it's new to them, but it's like it's whatever Rumsfeld used to say. It's like there's known knowns and unknown knowns and unknown unknowns or whatever the phrase is. But technically, live stream selling has been happening for years now. And as each of us get oriented to it in our, it breaks through to our own consciousness. We're like, wow, this is a new thing. Um, that was my circumstance a year and a half, 2 years ago when my client told me about these Europeans who were doing it. So to me, I was like, hey, Michael probably knows all about this because I learned about it from a fashion retailer who said Europeans were doing it really effectively. You've read an article that says Chinese e-commerce sellers have been doing it for 5 years. I think it's emerging, and I think we're at the early adopter phase. I know some clients who are doing live selling that we work with that are doing really well. They're crushing it. In fact, they're ramping up to start doing it. What they already do well on Facebook, they're going to take to Amazon. And I already have clients who are doing well with it, as I mentioned, that oriented me to it. But I have other clients who I know would crush it with live selling, who just it's just not on their radar yet. They're doing well. They've got their own systems, their own priorities, and it's just not a thing to them yet. And
Yeah.
so I think early adopters are ones who are hungry. They see it, it clicks for them,
Yeah.
and they're like, I could do this. I could make this work. And there's no technical barrier to entry. And I'm
Yeah.
hungry for it.
Yeah.
And, but then, that's an early sliver of users. And the question is, do we want to be those people and pioneer it and get
Yeah.
the early mover advantages of
And
doing it, which are truly, truly powerful these days on the internet?
that's true. And what's interesting to me is to differentiate between, oh, this is yet another fad and something I'll need to learn and or dedicate team time to if you've got a bigger team, versus the actual revenue size of the market.
Hmm.
The value of the market is doubling, annually or whatever it is at the moment, which
Hmm.
implies to me it's not a fad. It's actually a skill set that you're going to have to decide whether you want to get into or not. So,
Hmm.
talking of which, then let's transition from the bigger picture a little bit more into, you got some clients successfully doing it. Do you think this is for everyone, or the first obvious question to me is very simple, which is, do you think that most e-commerce sellers are going to be good on video to the extent that they can sell their products? And I'm bearing in mind what you were saying about this sort of person who wasn't necessarily,
Yeah.
articulate or gorgeous in the traditional TV style, and yet
Yeah.
was doing really, really well. So, given that reality, should e-commerce small business owners be doing the selling themselves, or is this something they're mostly going to need to outsource to somebody else?
Well, I think the question is, what's the technical requirement, and then what's the requirement for success?
Okay.
And so the technical requirement right now for Amazon Live is you need to be brand registered to do Amazon Lives, or be an approved Amazon influencer program
Mm.
participant. Now, Jacob just said in the chats here, he said he has applied for that previously and was turned down to be an influencer program. I don't have any secret suggestions for how to get approved for that. So look through the criteria. Whether they're looking for a large off Amazon audience, like a big influencer, community on your Instagram account, or a large email list that you have, or some other external metrics. I don't know, but I would go through that process and see if you can get accepted. Learn, how to go through that process. And so that's one thing. Those are just the technical requirements. But I will just say this: Amazon Live is just one way to do live selling. I've already mentioned we have several clients doing it effectively on Facebook as well. So, if Amazon turns you down, you can still do all of this stuff on Facebook. So those are the technical requirements, on Amazon. But then I guess the thing that I would encourage everybody to do is just go look at Amazon.com/live and watch what's happening. Michael, you alluded to a comment I made before we started recording the podcast, but I was just watching this morning, Amazon Live, turned it on just to look at it again. You can get to it directly from the menu, top level nav menu on Amazon.com, or it's also almost all the time now on the homepage as a feed strip, I guess you could say. Go watch what people are doing and just look to see who's doing what and what audience they have. And I was just saying this morning, the lady that when I turned it on this morning had 250 viewers live. She was, kind of middle-aged gal and did not look like a, polished home shopping network host. She just looked like she was sitting at her kitchen table talking, and 250 people were watching her sell stuff. And so, I don't think the elements of success are necessary to be like you have to look like the weatherman or the weather girl on your local TV. You don't have to be, on camera, super polished. I think what people really probably like is the interaction. They like your authenticity, and they like the basics of clean, simple, easy presentation that feels right and good and, conversational. Answering questions is a big part of the format. You have to, in terms of service, if you're going to do these, I've heard, you have to agree to interact with the audience through the commenting tool. And so, I think these are the elements of it that come into play. And the people who will be good at it are probably a mix of on camera, comfortable, have a data mindset in terms of when to go live, what the audience management stuff looks like, and have a product point of view that they can talk through. And who will win at the end of the day? I guess people who probably take the best advantage of these opportunities that Amazon is handing out freely.
Interesting. I mean, I don't obviously clearly don't have much of an idea about live selling, but because it's all fairly new to me, and I haven't really had friends. I haven't even been offered it much on our Amazon feed. I was just checking quickly while you were mentioning that it was showing up. So maybe they're sort of rolling it out in phases, as they often do, and any big companies will do. But one thing I'd say is this: what you just described to me sound like different types of people. And a friend of mine quite a few friends of mine work for the BBC, and one of them is a very, very good producer at a high level of a very famous program or two here. Radio programs mostly, but some TV. And the producer has the mindset that their data management, when you should go live, how the audience sort of analyzing things, the analytical mindset. The sort of person that does well in front of the cameras. I've worked with a lot of actors in the past as well, in past lives, as it were. I've done multiple different careers, which kind of feed into this stuff. They tend to be very unanalytical, very spontaneous. They're often very beautiful if they're actors. As you said, that I think the beauty is not important, but I do think personality probably is. And I wonder if some types of people that really thrive on balance sheets and spreadsheets, which is a lot of successful entrepreneurs I know, will be the last person I put in front of the camera, but they may have somebody in their business who would actually be much better in front of the camera, which often strikes me. What are your experiences with the clients who've done well at this? Do they personally go on camera, or is it like a husband and wife team and one of them's better? How does it actually work for you, your experience?
I've the two clients who have done live consistently, regularly, and do well with it. It's just one person on camera, and they are the principal, salesperson for their business, and they just get comfortable talking about their products. I'm reminded of a funny other little situation where my mom's 77, and so she's on Facebook. Sometimes she posts stuff and she's like, well, I didn't mean to post that. She's real, she's just, 77. And but one of the feeds she's tapped into on Facebook Live videos is a Southern gal that's probably in her late 60s or 70s who who does baking and cooking. And this lady has millions of watchers and, followers and fans on Facebook. And when I watched it, I asked my mom, what are you watching? And she just showed me this lady. And it's the most personal, sincere, down to earth, fun, conversational cooking show. It's just some lady in her house, and she just has a charm about her. She has sort of the southern drawl, and it's just very charming, and but not fancy. The house is not special. The lady's not. It's just like a normal, normal person. I think these are the elements that people are drawn to. It's
Yeah.
not about camera quality or the facade
Yes.
or I'm a beautiful, cover girl,
Yeah.
and that therefore I get to be on TV. There's no more of that.
Yeah.
There's no more of that. Now it still exists, but that's like saying newspapers exist.
Yeah.
This new world is people buy from people.
Yeah.
People like people. People are drawn to people who, can speak their language and
Yeah.
relate and answer their questions. And it's a fun new universe. So I think in many, many ways, the barrier has been completely destroyed or removed
Interesting.
for entry. And the barrier for quality or for doing well is all new. And it just goes to basic human interaction and quality relational kind of work,
I think what you just said reminds me very much of a quote from a latest Seth Godin book, and I can't remember which one it is. I think it's This Is Marketing, but it's all very good. I'm a big, big fan of him. And one thing he said is basic marketing, people like us do things like this. And I guess if you relate to this person in the living room or this person with relatability in the kitchen,
yeah,
then that does the job, and everything other technical barriers, as you say, are irrelevant. I'll have to say, one of the things that I'd absolutely detest about QVC and HS and that sort of stuff, or the British equivalents. Well, I got stuck in a waiting room in a hospital a while ago, waiting for something for an hour, and they had Home Shopping Network or the equivalent on for an hour, and it's like torture to me. And the reason it was like torture is because, number one, the person was kind of acting like they were charming, but they weren't really.
Yeah.
Number two, they clearly knew nothing about the product, and they were going to get given a random product the next day they knew nothing about. And well, those are two things, actually. That's enough. I mean, can stop being a hello.
Because, it's like time out. That's it. It's
that's
over,
it. I'm
right?
out. I hate it because one of the things that I think you've talked about is, I suppose, that authenticity. And I suppose you can't fake that, but also charm and engagement. And again, some people have it and some don't. I mean, my experience of acting college is surprisingly rare to be able to just stand in front of a camera or in front of an audience and be engaging and natural and relaxed. I guess you get better at it over the time, is what you're saying.
I think so. And also, I would just say it's probably true. I don't know, you speak to this, but it's probably true that if the topic itself or the category they were operating in was a real draw to you, you would have invested a little more emotionally in overlooking the, kind of the flaws in what you were watching, because you really wanted the insight, information, or info. So, I know you love music stuff, and it's like if they were pitching the latest, greatest musical tool, instrument, or whatever, that might have captured your attention. I would just say this other example real quick. I didn't think of this, but when we were at NEC, which is Europe's largest sewing show in Birmingham, that's how you say it, right?
Birmingham, but yeah.
Birmingham. It was 2 summers ago. And it's massive. It's like 60 to 80,000 people there. So it's no small thing. That whole stadium, NEC, like it's a big, huge convention, facility. It was all oriented around a TV set that they were doing QVC style TV programming live from NEC. And it was all sewing channels. And our volunteers at our booth said to us, there are 4 TV channels in England that are sewing channels that do lives constantly, that are always doing lives. Now, we don't have anything like that in the US. So you guys are pioneering some stuff over there.
Had no idea. I don't own a TV, so that's not part of my sort of culture consumption yet. I'm always on YouTube or watching Amazon Prime videos. So as you say, those two worlds are colliding, aren't they? The old TV thing is becoming more niche, like the internet. 4 sewing channels in the UK is crazy. I had no idea.
Yeah.
The one thing that strikes me is this. Because based on what you're just saying, is it about the presenter or is it about the topic? I think there's a combination of the two. That I think one big danger, for certain types of consumers, and it's certainly true for me, and yet it works beautifully for mass marketing, is, for example, I looked on the HSN Home Shopping Network link that you sent me in preparation for this podcast. And I looked up Apple computers because I'm genuinely a big fan. I consume their stuff. I buy it online. And I was turned off massively within 10 seconds by the presenter. And yet I have watched influencers who are obsessed about Macs as much as I am, or more, because they repair them and take them apart and obsess about them much more than I am, and being very influenced by their opinions to the extent of buying things. So I think what that says to me is, for certain types of consumers, that they want to feel like the person influencing them isn't necessarily slick or beautiful, although this guy did have very high production values and it is a young, good-looking guy. But more importantly, that they really know and care about the products. And I think that's where I suspect that the influencers, even like your clients, have a huge advantage over these slick, over-polished QVC type presenters who've probably just been handed a Mac 10 minutes before the show and said, sell this. It's a bit like sell me this pen kind of thing. And I think that triggers all the instinctive responses we have to a salesperson who's obviously a salesperson, as opposed to a fellow enthusiast. So that's totally my sort of reaction from a very amateur kind of audience response rather than any sort of advice, really.
I think it's the stratification of culture and basic personality types that's playing out, because I think people are comfortable with people that they're like.
Yeah.
Birds of a feather flock together, as the old saying goes, and I think that's so true. I'm comfortable listening to people who kind of seem like me, and I want to hear, like, you're basically drawn to people who you feel like you could be friends with, you could be, hang out with. And even I would say, I don't want to get controversial or whatever, but like, even as a Pacific Northwest guy, the Southern drawl, the Southern accent, I'm like, not so much. That's not ringing true to me. It doesn't sound like something I want to, just bond with, hear about, or connect with. Sometimes it's charming, sometimes it's amazing, but other times it's like, no, that's sort of it's a barrier to, what you really want to do with people is just have them forget about everything except the topic. And if there are these little yellow or red flags that pop up, oh, I don't like this guy. Oh, this is boring. Oh, this is distracting. Oh, their background looks weird. Oh, what is that behind them? Oh, their Southern draw seems fake. All of these little attributes are barriers, but when it works, and when you find somebody who's like, man, that's the gal for me, or that's the guy for me, I could chat with them about this stuff all day long, you're in business. And the internet is making it possible for there to be 1 million of these shows, and they will each attract the right audience to them, and some will scale massively. And I think that's the interesting part to me, is just sort of what's playing out in the real world of live selling, So
it comes down to the long tail, doesn't it? The Clive Anderson book that I think I read in 2007. It's still really playing out, isn't it? Because really, this is that live hasn't really responded to the implications of that until now. In other words, that there are niche audiences who are fanatically obsessed with a certain thing, like 4 TV channels obsessed with sewing and a convention of 80,000 people, and just in the UK, which has only got 66 million people in it, it's not like a huge country. That's an example of how big a niche is, and yet I had no idea it existed. And it was kind of in a sense amazing that Amazon hasn't plunged into this until now. I guess they were busy doing other things like trying to get their warehouse systems work, change CEO. So let's talk a little bit more about the technical. If people are enthused about this, how do we take care of it technically? You talked about within Amazon universe, you need to be brand registered or registered as an influencer. How do we, assuming that we jump through one of those barriers and we're approved, how do we actually get the message across to people?
Well, the beautiful part is that this tool we're using right now, StreamYard, to broadcast into whatever we're in 2 or 3 Facebook groups, a Facebook page, a YouTube channel, et cetera, et cetera. This tool itself, StreamYard.com, is the back-end tool that will allow you to broadcast straight into Amazon Live. So that's really super interesting, because you and I have been using this for a year and a half, something like that. And I've used it for a couple years now, and very comfortable with it as a broadcast tool. So technically, that's what you want to look into, because it's slick, it works, and a few elements of StreamYard that are really powerful to me. First of all, you can go do a StreamYard, set it up, and do a video and not have it broadcast anywhere. You can just keep the MP4 file as a video recording. So in essence, you can practice as many times as you want, and or do a live, seemingly live, that's not really live in the moment, save it, have it as an MP4 file, and then upload it to your Facebook channel or whatever. So you can practice with this. Oh, my coffee pot's turning off. Sorry. live video.
Live video,
Okay.
and all the things go with it. That's really good, by the way. I think that's really important what you just said, because that should remove the fear from a lot of people that you've got to get it right live in front of people, or look.
Yep.
I think the underlying fear that blocks a lot of people is, I'm going to look silly, sound silly in front of hundreds of people. And of course, that's a big barrier psychologically. So the fact that you can get around that is huge, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a powerful one. The other elements of that are super cool is you can actually do chyrons across the bottom. Like we don't do it when we're doing these broadcasts, but you can have a streaming comment along the bottom that's on camera. You can also mock up and add overlays, image overlays, MP3 files with a transparent background that literally will mock up your screen so that you look exactly like Home Shopping Network. Those placards they have on the left-hand side of the screen that say, 3 payments of $19, or item number 424292, or whatever it is. You can have those graphics cards very simply create them in Canva, save them as a clear PNG. You add them in StreamYard, and you literally click with one button, and there they are on camera. You can look exactly like Home Shopping Network or QVC through StreamYard. And there are other attributes that are really cool as well. But I would just encourage people to check that out if they want to learn about how to do this. Once you do a couple StreamYards, you get comfortable with it really fast. It's easy. We've been doing it for our charity. We do what we call So Powerful Live. It's the last Monday of the month, every month. And we've been doing it for, I don't know, about a year probably. And you can go to Facebook, our So Powerful Facebook page, and see all of those prior ones and see how we use it in a charity context. But it's very similar. Technically, there's no difference between what we're doing and what you would be doing on Amazon Live, or just talking about a different set of topics. But the StreamYard tool is something to check out. And it's that simple. I mean, it's just, there's not a lot of technical difficulty to do this.
I think a lot of it comes down to mental barriers and also skill sets. As you said, you talked about trade skills before. I think this is sounding to me like a trade skill that one should either develop for oneself, or because it's such a big trend and such a lot of money at stake, that you should possibly at some point, it may not be soon for some people, consider hiring or finding a person within your organization to do it. I would say a couple of things there, a couple of concepts from Rick Cesare, who's a big fantastic person to know in this era. I'm lucky to be in conversation with him through podcasts and other times. He was in the early days been really pioneer of QVC, HSN, or whatever it is, a sort of selling direct to selling on TV, and $1 billion sales, George Foreman Cool, etc., Crow cameras, you name it, the big stuff. He's got a couple of simple concepts he put across. First of all, as we've been kind of saying, concept is model what's working, which is kind of simple. But the other thing he says is testing. But particularly useful tip is to test intros until one sticks. And to make you feel better about it, George Foreman Grill was obviously a massive smash hit success. But even Rick, with all his experience, got it wrong first time, because George Foreman had just back in the day won the heavyweight championship, age 46, the oldest in the sport. So for boxing fans, that was a big thing. They started the initial ads with boxing footage that cost them thousands of dollars to buy the rights to that footage. And the audience was mostly women, and they hated it. They hated the violence. They weren't boxing fans. And they went back to the drawing board, and they changed the intro, and suddenly it popped and went on to be a huge success. So he's got three ways to hook in viewers at the start of a video, which is probably the easiest place to tweak and to re-record if you're recording it for yourself as well. First of all, option one, start with the question, would you like to lose 10 pounds in 30 days? Cheesy, cliche, but still useful, works.
Engaging.
Actually. Address the problem. And it's very, what it does in two ways is instantly a question is really an embedded command, isn't it? It's saying think about this, and it's also flagging up what problem you're addressing, so the audience can quickly filter, no, it doesn't interest me, or oh yes, maybe. The second thing is a factoid. So for example, the juice man juicer, there was a factoid, there's an element in broccoli shown to prevent
Mm-hmm.
breast cancer. And the third thing is a short story. And that's where I think if you're a real enthusiast and user of your product, for example, you in cinema,
Yeah.
obviously like Uber, cinema's an Uber expert, I would say these days about cinema sewing, but somebody who's been doing it for 15 years, used to do it with
Mm-hmm.
their grandmother or something, that's immediately engaging. So those are
Mm-hmm.
three really fairly simple but really powerful things to tweak with. And just like if your email copywriting isn't working, test the subject lines first.
Yeah.
I think this is the equivalent. Test the first minute or two of what you say in your video, and if people stop clicking away and start staying and engaging, then you can probably judge that. But if your video is starting to work, and then you can start to work on the rest of it over time.
I love that. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Obviously, there's tons and tons of lessons to be learned about how to do this well. This is the makings of a really, really cool book.
Yes.
And there's, I think there's a ton of direct marketing material there that people would want to learn about. So it's
By the
fantastic. Yeah.
By the way,
Oh, go
just
ahead.
when you mentioned the cool book, there is a book by Rick Sizai called Video Persuasion on that very topic. Now, but it doesn't specialize in live, so there is
Okay.
definitely still a book to be written about how to do live well. But
Yeah.
it's
Great.
very, very good basic
Yep.
concepts of using video as a commercial direct selling medium. It's not
Yep.
very far away, or is a very solid starting point. So I would 100% recommend getting that book and reading that
Yeah.
through.
Awesome. Well, comments are popping in here. I want to make sure we mention them. Ol wrote, I've started selling on Handmade Amazon and doing really well. So that's interesting. We need to do a deeper dive into Handmade.
Definitely, yeah.
And
Handmade as this category is very interesting, I think.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He said he basically copied a US model that's doing very well and learned how to make it. There's no monthly fees with Handmade, but no A plus content. PPC or paid ads seem extremely expensive at the moment. So live selling sounds very interesting. And my products are gift products. So sometimes it's hard to think of the best way to promote as it's not something people search for. Yeah, let me just camp on this for a minute. The basic sales formula for all of us as e-commerce sellers are have a product, find an audience. And the outside observer would say, oh, well, I don't have a product and I don't have an audience, so I have two barriers to entry. Well, if you think about it, the amazing part of this is it doesn't have to be your product and it doesn't have to be your audience. Amazon is gifting you their traffic. Like, how often would you ever say that is true? And I know that, for a lot of Amazon sellers, they're like, it's hard to get, a bestseller rank. It's hard to get eyeballs on the product. It's hard to get reviews and velocity. And there are very few times when Amazon gifts you traffic. Now, most of the time, like for Prime Day or whatever, you have to pay for those opportunities. Those are very expensive, promotional packages that Amazon will offer to sellers. But at the moment, this is completely and totally available to the masses. So I think that's the interesting part of this is they're gifting you eyeballs. And that to me is a rare thing. They're clearly doing it because they want to compete. They want to build up this concept. And yeah, I mean, I think that, forget PPC advertising. I mean, I guess here's what I'm trying to say. You could spend a lot of money in the next month doing Amazon ads with some outcome, or you could spend time and energy and thinking and, strategic work to learn how to do a live, and you don't pay any money for it. You just have to invest in it emotionally, mentally, and some of the technical elements of learning it. That's a different track to run down. And I think that's what's interesting to me is this is the opportunity. If, if I've always said, if it's free, it's for me. And this to me seems like Amazon gifting people a huge, blessing into your business.
Yeah, two thoughts about that. I mean, the first of all, the sort of spontaneous nature. I mean, I think, by the way, this is not going to work for all audiences. This is exactly why I like the feeling of control. And I was saying maybe I'm a control freak. I'm definitely a control freak, and like to feel clever and intelligent and analytical. Now I'm probably not, but I'm definitely not in control of the world, and I'm probably not as clever as I think I am sometimes when I'm shopping. But I like search because it puts me in
Mm-hmm.
control.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like browsing so much, and I really hate somebody coming on TV, the opposite extreme, is saying some random person I've never met talking about a product
Mm-hmm.
they've never used and telling me as a person they've never met that I should use it. Now, having said that, though, search as a discovery mechanism is becoming incredibly monetized by Amazon. Somebody's mentioned, oh, Amazon ads are very expensive at the moment. I would say to you, I'm afraid you've seen nothing yet. I don't see anything but up in the for various strategic reasons I've talked about before. And I may be wrong, but I doubt it, sadly. And if you look at all the different platforms for marketing channels, generally they monetize more and more heavily over time. You look at the Google clicks now compared to 10 years ago. But I would say that if so that's the first thing. Search is becoming expensive, so we need to try something else. The second thing I would say is some products don't work, as this person was implying. He's just commenting. I can't see the name of it was. Yeah, it's odd. So, but some products really ping off the page, and people think, "Oh, that's really wonderful" when they see it, but they're never going to look for it. So, for that kind of product, this is an amazing gift. And the third thing I would say, to your point, if it's free, it's for me. What generally happens with traffic channels is that it's new and experimental. So the channel puts a lot of money and resources behind it, and it appears to be free to you. Then it kind of consolidates, and they'll rule a lot of people out who don't meet certain criteria, and then they monetize the heck out of it. I will imagine that it's going to be the same with this live thing. So I think now is a moment in history to jump on it if you're interested, because I suspect it will not be as free or as available for very long, because it doesn't make sense economically for Amazon.
Yeah, totally agree. And so it's a window of opportunity. And that's how these things work. And I mean, people have built their business over the last 24, 25 years on the internet on the back of windows of opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's just how it works. There's a time and place for different opportunities that come and then they go. And for those of us who have been selling for, decades now, we've realized that and kind of have a spidey senses tuned to what is in and what is out. And so that to me is the interesting part of this, is that there's always something new. And as it happens, this is the new thing. And it creates a massive opportunity. Okay. Well, I think we've covered the topic here today. This has been a fun conversation. Appreciate the dialogue here in the chats. People are jumping in and appreciate that. And it's really, really fun to bring these types of topics to the party and have our audience in various groups and on our various channels learn about these new opportunities. It's an honor to be able to just chat with you as well, Michael. This stuff is always fun to brainstorm on and kick around. There's always new angles to look at for each of these things, and it's always fun to debate them and discuss them and have conversations with you about them. So
yeah,
good stuff.
I think the main thing I would just like to sort of underscore is this really changes who's thinking of selling on Amazon, because it's until this point it's been almost entirely sort of product centered. You're either good at getting products that you get manufactured on your behalf or sourcing them. The fact that the other side of the equation, the audience side, has always been what Amazon's provided, and of course that is I would argue that's the hardest bit to get. But if you are good at getting an audience and you're not so good at the product side, then that whole influencer opportunity, although I don't know exactly how it works, but that's obviously a whole different way to tap into Amazon. And traditionally the people listen to our show and listen to e-commerce based advice would have products and be looking at how to sell them. But increasingly I'm starting to see people who are good at the other way around. Like one of the members of the 10K Collective Mastermind created an Amazon affiliate website. So in other words, the ninja skill, if you like, was SEO on Google in order to then make sales and get commission selling on Amazon. But it's turned out that selling his own products on Amazon, via that mechanism, is this sort of side hustle now, because the main thing he's making money from with that site, which is blowing up really quickly, is selling other people's products. So it is possible to transition your skill set from one to the other, which is very interesting. That's not so common, but I wouldn't want the influencer play to be missed here, because I think it profoundly changes the relationship to Amazon that's on offer. Instead of just being the sell person and Amazon offers the audience, we can be the person who offer the audience, which is very interesting.
It's two sides of that conversation as well. So let's just one of the clients that I work with, it's working through this dynamic right now. I said to them a few weeks ago, they could go live themselves one day a week That doesn't feel onerous or, too difficult. But they could find 6 other influencers to go live in support of their product on Amazon. So, think about it that way. All these influencers are going live on Amazon. What are they going to talk about? Whatever they can make money at and are interested in, and so we could, as sellers, think of it that way as well. We could think of who are the influencers doing lives that are comfortable, that are good, that have an audience, that when they go live, people show up. And can I reach out to them? And can I ask them to pitch my product? There's nothing that is stopping people from doing that. So that's a whole nother angle. So I think there's a lot of interesting, ways in which selling can occur through these new opportunities. So
yeah,
there you have it. Yeah,
absolutely. And just to kind of top that off with something that is current experience of mine, which is to say a lot of the Series 6, 7, well, 8-figure sellers in a couple of places who are doing really well are really finding influencers more and more influential, as it were, on their bottom line. So this is just another expansion in that way of the universe of influencers. It's just, obviously, if you're influencing somebody on a channel where you could just click the buy button and actually just literally have it delivered to you by the same, so it's got a vertical integration, I suppose, isn't it? Instead of a Facebook influencer who sends you over to Amazon, it's now an Amazon influencer and you're there already. So I think that's kind of pouring gasoline on the fire, as you would put it in the States. That's really exciting opportunity. So well, I mean, first thing I got to say is thank you for opening my eyes to my shame, to some degree, to the level of power in this Amazon Live thing. I had no idea it was blowing up so much, and now I do. So got to say thank you. And can you sort of wrap this up in a bow for us? What do you think that are the sort of simple takeaways for people if they're e-commerce operators?
Sure. Go to amazon.com/live and see what's happening, and think about how to implement in your business, either directly yourself on camera using a tool like StreamYard.com, go check it out, or using influencers that are going live on Amazon to help sell your product. These opportunities are completely and totally available to all of us. And you can either be an influencer yourself, you can be brand registered and go live, or just go find an influencer to work with you to sell your products. I mean, there are multiple ways to approach this. And the opportunity is literally statistically doubling financially right now every year, according to market researchers. So it's a huge opportunity. We can take advantage of it simply and easily. And I would encourage people to go check it out and to learn more about the subject. And as always, I guess I could just do a final call to action. Feel free to check out other podcasts that we have at theecommerceleader.com. Scroll through the list on your favorite podcast player and check out our prior episodes. We've done a ton of episodes on all things e-commerce. We'd love to have you like and or subscribe on the player of choice. And finally, I'll just say we're running a contest at contest.theecommerceleader.com. And we're giving away a $250 Visa gift card for people to potentially win. Just enter the contest, and the entry methods are following our podcast, so it's pretty self-serving. Obviously, we'd love to have you check that out and enter the contest. If you're listening to this in July of 2021, then you're eligible to enter. And if not, check out that page, because maybe we're running a contest right now as you listen to this in the future.
Amazing. And the final thing I should put in is, obviously you've got a couple of clients that are doing very, very well with this strategy, and obviously you've got a broad set of expertise that you and Kyle, your partner in the consulting business, bring. So where do people go to work with you and Kyle? I know you guys are busy rebranding. Yep. Is it still the old site, or where do people go if they want to explore that?
It is still winningonshopify.com. That's the place to go at the moment, and it'll redirect to our new relaunch, rebrand, as we roll that out here in the near future. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, it's been a pleasure and eye-opening to talk to you about this. More opening than it should be. I need to go away and do my homework as an Amazon seller, and I'm based in Europe, which allegedly is where this is kicking off.
Allegedly.
But I'm behind the curve here. But I'm really excited about this. It sounds like a great opportunity, and always a pleasure to talk to you, and always educational, man. Thank you so much for taking the time.
And we're out. Okay, that was our podcast, friends. Thanks for hanging out with us today, Jacob. As always, you're on with us and others, Ole, and
Yeah.
the team is showing up here. It's fun
Yeah.
to.
Jacob's definitely contributor of the year as well, isn't
I
he?
love the
Yeah.
commenting, and it's so
Yeah.
helpful. And we really appreciate the opportunity to serve you guys, and really do want to do everything we can to be of help. So always feel free to hit us up. Okay, so great conversation, Michael. As you can tell, I'm hanging out in a beach house down on the Oregon coast, so we're packing
Nice.
up and going home today. But this has been a fun conversation. Really enjoyed it, and yeah, it's a good one. It's a really interesting topic.
It is. I just, yeah, it's so huge. I think it's definitely something everyone should be investigating with great vigor.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
yeah, great stuff. Well, enjoy the rest of your holiday. And for everyone listening, thank you so much for the comments. As I say, Jacob, we probably ought to have top commenter of the year award, and Jacob topping, you're going to be the winner for sure. And I've seen you on quite a few of our podcasts as well. So thanks so much for the interaction. It really is more exciting that way. So, and some great points as well. So
Absolutely,
it's good stuff.
Okay, guys, good times, good times. Have a great evening there in London. Thanks as always, buddy.
Have a good morning in Oregon.